Good morning, good morning. It's Sunday. It's the Lord's Day. And how wonderful to be able to meet together later, I hope, with other folk to worship God. Sunday is a lovely day. It's the day above all other days on which we remember that Jesus rose from the dead and changed life and death forever. Praise his name. How wonderful. We can be optimistic about everything because of that change that happened that first Easter weekend. I'm thinking at the moment, and will be for a few days yet, about stewardship, about money and wealth, and about... I broached the idea yesterday that God himself does not deal in money. It's a strange concept, isn't it? We have money all the time. We have to deal with money. God understands about money. He understands that we need money, and that we need money because it provides us with things that we need. And he's promised to give us strength to get wealth. But God does not deal in money. When we need money, he uses his stewards, those people who look after his money, to provide for those of his servants who need money. And we are all stewards of his money, however much or however little you have in your bank account or in your purse or in your wallet. However little you have in the way of assets, everything that you have has come from God, and it belongs to God. And it's wonderful that the basic giving idea of the scriptures is tithing. And that is not a certain amount, but a proportion. So whether you have £1 in your pocket or 1,000, the proportion you give is the same, 10%, as a normal thing to do. It should be in all of our lives, I think, routine. It has been in my life since I understood about tithing, which was, I think when I first got saved, I think I learned about tithing. 10%. So 10% of £1 is 10 pence, and 10% of 1,000 is 100. So 10% is so easy to work out. I mean, we caught on to this when we changed our currency, didn't we? We changed our currency from all those different numbers in each unit to 10 of everything. And it made it a lot easier to work everything out. But the Bible is full of what are called free will offerings. Those are offerings that are made out of the 90% that's left, not out of the 10%. The 10% is the Lord's straight off, and should be the Lord's, and that's something we'll talk about perhaps a bit later. But I'm thinking about free will offerings. You know, the opportunity that we have sometimes to give freely, to help someone else, to help provide something, to help support. And I'm thinking about the chapter in Chronicles, which really, please read it. I can't read it all this morning. It's 1 Chronicles 29, when David had provided a lot of the building materials and the plans and for the building of the temple, but he wasn't going to be allowed to build it. Solomon was going to build it. And David asked the people to donate. And verse 6 says, the heads of the fathers' houses made their freewill offerings, as did also the leaders of the tribes and everyone else. They gave for the service of the house of God 5,000 talents, 10,000 darricks of gold, 10,000 talents of silver, 18,000 talents of bronze, 100,000 talents of iron. And whoever had precious stones gave them to the treasury of the house of the Lord in the care of Jael the Gershonites. And the people rejoiced because these had been given willingly, for with a whole heart they had offered freely to the Lord. David the king also rejoiced greatly. They rejoiced at the opportunity to give, to contribute, and they brought the best that they had. Not what was left over, but the best of what they had. And in verse 14, David says, to the Lord, but who am I, and what is my people, that we should be able thus to offer willingly. For all things come from thee, and of thy own have we given thee. David understood this principle, that everything that they owned belonged to God anyway. But it was their free choice whether to give it or not. And he rejoiced that the people had given so generously, and that they'd been able to give it, and that that gift was actually worth anything to God, because everything belonged to God anyway. God could easily say, well, I don't think much of your giving, because it's mine anyway. But he doesn't. He rejoices when the heart of man reflects his own heart, which is generosity. God is incredibly generous. He gives and gives and gives and gives. He gives to those who never say thank you. He gives to those who never notice what he does. He gives because his heart is to give. And as we get more like God, our heart should change as well. We should stop being people who say, I've got to look after my own interests first. We've got to be people who realize that God has given us everything we have, and that just as easily as he's given it to us, he can give it to us again. And we'll see as we look at more verses in the scriptures that this is the expectation that Jesus said we should have. That in the proportion of which we give is the proportion that we will get. And that money is just the same as everything else. Like we've thought about many things, haven't we? We've thought about do not judge or you will be judged. Do not, be merciful and you'll receive mercy. That what we give out in other things, apart from money, is what we get back. The way we behave to others is what we get back in return. And it's exactly the same principle with money. If we're miserly and mean in our giving, that's what will come back to us. Just about enough to survive. But if we're generous, we can't outgive God. God has been so generous to us that the last thing we should do is hold on to what he's given to us, because doing that, in effect, says, I don't think you're capable of giving me back this if I give it to you. If I give it to you, I lose it. If I give it to you, my bank account goes down. If I give it to you, I put myself and my family in hardship. But it isn't true. It's a lie. Just like in so many other things, Satan gives us a different view of money. He says, well, you've done very well, enjoy it, spend it on yourself. This is what our materialistic society is all about. It's all about spend, spend, spend. It's all about getting something to gratify us, to give us pleasure. But you've experienced it. I know you've experienced it. If any of you have children or other people that you love, when you give them a surprise, you send them something or you give them something they're not expecting, the joy on their face when they receive it is more pleasurable than if you had spent your money on yourself. It's the most amazing thing. Giving is God's heart. But do read this chapter. Read this chapter. Their heart, the joy they had in realizing how much people had given. They were filled with joy. David was ecstatic and so grateful to God that he'd been given the opportunity to join in this giving spree. Not a spending spree, but a giving spree. Let's have a giving spree in the name of Jesus. It's wonderful. What that phrase, all things come from you, O Lord, and of your own have we given you, is used repeatedly in many services. But you get so used to hearing it that you don't realize just what a momentous statement it is. What we have is not ours, it's God's. And we have to spend it and use it the way he wants us to spend it and use it. Something great to think about today. God bless you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.